All right, guys. Today we're going to be reacting to another JD CNN interview. Let's jump in and see what's going on.
Presidential nominee JD Vance, who represents Ohio in the U.S. Senate. Thank you for being here, sir. So the mayor of Springfield, Ohio, Rob Rue, said, quote, all these federal politicians that have negatively spun our city, they need to know they're hurting our city. And it was their words that did it. Before Donald Trump talked about eating dogs and cats on a debate stage, it was you, Senator, who first elevated this baseless rumor. These are your constituents. So why are you putting them at risk by continuing to spread claims about Haitian immigrants, despite officials in your state saying that there's no evidence and pleading for you to stop?
Well, Dana, first of all, what's putting the residents of Springfield at risk, which was a town completely ignored by the American media until Donald Trump and I started surfacing some of these concerns, is that they can't afford housing, they can't afford health care. The schools have been overwhelmed, the hospitals have been overwhelmed, and they're overwhelmed because Kamala Harris allowed 20,000 Haitian migrants to get dropped into a small Ohio town of about 40,000 people, and it's completely overwhelmed the services. Now, you ask, why have I talked about some of the things that I've been talking about? Let me just say this. My constituents have brought approximately a dozen separate concerns to me. 10 of them are verifiable and confirmable, and a couple of them I talk about because my constituents are telling me firsthand that they're seeing these things. So I have two options, Dana. I can ignore them, which is what the American media has done for years to this community, or I can actually talk about what people are telling me. And of course, many of the things that the media says are completely baseless have since been confirmed. For example, I was told, Dana, that by the American media, that it was baseless that migrants were capturing the geese from the local park pond and eating them. And yet there are 911 calls from well before this ever became a viral sensation of people complaining about that exact thing happening. So my attitude is listen to my constituents. Sometimes they're going to say things that people don't like, but they're saying things that people don't like because their town has been overwhelmed, and it's my job to try to fight for them and to protect them. Kamala Harris opened the border, and now these people are suffering. That's what I'm focused on, Dana.
Senator, I have to go through several things that you just said. First of all, the Clark County Sheriff and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources reviewed 11 months of 911 calls. They only identified 2 instances of...
Man, just do your job and you go there. If JD Vance lying so much, and a lot of Republicans, go there yourself. It's so easy. Hey, if you want to really expose JD Vance and the bunch of Ohioans down there, go yourself and just figure out if it is true or not. But damn, of course, a politician in Ohio is gonna tell you, no, what they say is completely true. No, they're not gonna do it because it's gonna look bad. Go down Ohio and figure out whether they're telling the truth. It's so easy to do.
People alleging Haitians were taking geese out of parks. They found 0 evidence to substantiate those claims. Also, other evidence that you have talked about, even you've retweeted alleged evidence, are unsourced social media videos from a different city, apparently no connection to Haitians. And this is from a conservative activist who offered a $5,000 reward for such things. And then going just backly to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed, nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio, needs help. But you're not just a bystander, you're the senator from Ohio. So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs thing, why not actually be constructive in helping to better integrate them into the community? Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it.
Nah, Dana, don't. We don't want to hear you pushing back. You don't have the credibility to do so. You don't have that credibility. I mean, she's gonna start now. She's not even listening. She just simply wants to push back. I mean, that last interview with Kamala Harris took everything out of you as a credibility. You're not credible. Now you want to push back?
Condemn all violence.
Senator,
and
this
threats of
happened
violence.
after you and
But to
President
say-
Trump
no, no,
were
Dana,
on
no,
the
Dana,
on the
to
debate
say-
stage, said
Dana,
that
no,
cats and dogs
you
were
asked,
being
you
eaten.
asked a question,
And
Dana,
after
and I'm going
that-
to go ahead and answer it.
Okay,
What
after
we
that,
said,
they were
what
threatened.
we have said is that this town
Nice job,
has
JD.
suffered
Come on.
terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They are in the country through what's called temporary protective status.
Right.
That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand, taking people and giving them legal status. That is
True,
not
that's true.
That is not to say that they're here.
That's true. Elitists like her, she don't want to accept it, or she just want to play the propaganda game. We all know. We can see it. We can see it. We can literally see it. You're asking yourself how this illegal immigrant has a live driver license. He doesn't even speak English. I have some Amazon delivery guys. Somehow, I was looking for a job in Amazon. They couldn't give me the job. But somehow these illegal immigrants that can't even speak English have a job here in Wisconsin. It's crazy to think about. But then they call you crazy. That's insane.
Legally, that is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the
But they're
border
not.
and further
But it's
caused
not illegal.
terrible migration
you
into
might
this
be,
country.
You might not agree with the policy, and obviously you don't, which is totally fair and legitimate. There are policy disagreements all the time, but the fact is, it is the law because President
Dana,
Biden
the point
and
is,
Vice
Dana,
President Harris are. But I don't want to frankly go down this conversation about.
They're telling her to move on.
Because no.
You made a point. You don't.
They're telling her to move on. That's what they're telling her. No, move on, move on.
I agree. You don't want to talk about policy.
No,
Dana,
what
which
I
is
want to
why you're
talk about.
talking
What
other
I want to talk
distractions
about.
instead of about the fact
Senator,
that
it
Kamala
was
Harris,
your
Dana,
distraction.
granted
You
amnesty
were the
at a
one who
mass
started
level. She
talking about
Bad
granted
eating
amnesty
dogs
at a
interviewer.
mass level.
Bad interviewer.
You were the one who.
At this point, they're not listening to each other. She's being very. JD Vance know that she's just disingenuous. You see what I'm saying? Because of what happened with the interview with Kamala Harris. Now she just want to push back. Dana, you don't have that credibility anymore. You don't even have that position. JD is being nice enough to just come and just do an interview. Because if I was him, I would not even give it the interview.
My constituents
the president
were the
said
ones
it
who
to
talked about
60
eating
million
dog and
people.
cats, and I talked about it because you were ignoring this community. My constituents talked about
Have
it.
you
and
been
it is
to
my
Springfield?
responsibility to surface their concerns when the American media
Have you been to
ignores it.
Springfield?
Dana, I've been to Springfield probably 100 times in my life.
How about
I've taken my
recently,
children
since
to
you've
get
Ah.
Jersey Dairy.
Have you heard recently since you've
Ah.
gotten these
That
calls?
doesn't
Have
matter.
I been in the last 4 days?
No,
no,
I'm
I
talking
haven't been in
about
the last 4 days, but I've
since
talked
you've
to a lot
gotten
of
these
people
calls
in
from the
Springfield, Dana,
constituents.
and they're telling me this stuff is happening. Dana, would you like to ask me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris
There we
and Tim
go.
Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to
There we
answer
go,
the
yeah.
questions. I'm happy to be here to talk about policy.
There we go,
but if you're
JD.
going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth,
There we go.
then why am I even doing this?
There
So
we go.
please,
Let's go. Let's go. Nice job, JD.
ask a question.
You have
and
to
I'd
call them
ask
out.
you to be polite enough to
Yes.
let me answer it.
Yeah, yeah. There we go. That's all you need to do. End of the interview. You have to call them out. That's what she's doing currently. You have to call them out. She thinks that she's entitled to just go back and forth with JD, but when Kamala Harris is sitting down, she's just literally giving her the answers right there and there. JD is doing good enough. He's being good enough to even sit down and have an interview with her, and she still have the audacity to go back and forth with JD. You don't have the credibility anymore. You don't.
I am, and I think that if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were making unsubstantiated claims
There we are, just blinking a lot. She don't even believe what she's saying.
that had racist undertones,
In my
about,
opinion.
people
Look at that,
eating
look at that.
dogs and cats, I would, and they didn't answer the questions about that, then I would have similar interactions with them. As you know, I am very grateful that you come on the show, as I am for other Republicans. But this is
act on it. Don't seem disingenuous. I mean, I'm sorry I have to stop the video, but it's just you notice these things. You are like, you start asking a lot of questions deeper than just the surface. This looks like an interview, but it's more than this. This is a battle of ideas, battle of propaganda, battle of messages that if you just go way beyond of what we're seeing in a first glance. Oh, what happened?
something that you're hearing from constituents. I did a lot of reporting. I talked to people in Ohio over the weekend.
Sure.
And they're really worried about these claims. The policies, yes, I am agreeing with you that what I heard is that there is concern that these migrants, there's a lot of them, and the integration isn't being done fast enough and well enough.
But they are illegals. They are illegals.
And that's a
These people are crazy, man.
legitimate conversation. But there are other conversations that are happening. Aiden Clark, who is an 11-year-old boy who was killed in Springfield last year. It was a car accident involving a Haitian immigrant. You said that he was murdered. His father said that's not true. It was an accident. Here's what he said to you.
Politicians, Bernie Moreno, Chip Roy, JD Vance, and Donald Trump. They have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. This needs to stop now. They are not allowed, nor have they ever been allowed to mention Aiden Clark from Springfield, Ohio. I will listen to them one more time to hear their apologies.
Okay.
Senator, he's asking for you to apologize.
No, don't do that, JD. That's a trick question.
Dana, first of all, my heart goes out to the Clark family, and I don't bring their son's name up because they've clearly expressed a preference for politicians to not bring their son's name up. I wish them all the best. I can't believe what kind of a tragedy they've experienced, but I'm still going to keep on talking about what the migrants have done to Springfield, Ohio, and what Kamala Harris's open border has done to Springfield, Ohio. And Dana, I think this illustrates the entire contrast between how we're trying to go about this debate and how a lot of the Democrats are trying to go about this debate. They're talking about 12 Proud Boys marching in Springfield, Ohio. They're talking about By the
way, I think those are feds. You ask me, in my opinion, I think there's probably federal agents. It's because the timing doesn't make sense. You see what I'm saying? The timing, I might be wrong though, but the timing does not make sense. All of a sudden, they're just Proud Boys marching in Springfield, Ohio. Really? Really?
Frankly, fake debunkings of a lot of these stories that are out there. I'm talking to my constituents and I'm hearing terrible things about what's going on in Springfield, and Kamala Harris's open border policies have caused these problems. The hospitals are overwhelmed, Dana. The schools are overwhelmed. The local services are completely overwhelmed. You have people who can't afford housing. Homelessness has gone up. Murders are up by 81% because of what Kamala Harris has allowed to happen to this small community. I'm going to keep on talking about that. Now, of course, we can criticize violence. We can also still talk about the problems that are happening in Springfield, and we should be able to do both those things simultaneously, Dana.
Just once and for all, you again started this in part by saying that, at which Donald Trump repeated on the debate stage, that, and he didn't say anything about the policies that you're talking about. He just said Haitians are eating dogs and cats. Can you affirmatively say now that that is a rumor that has...
Listen, man, I'm from the Caribbean myself, and these things happen. They not only they eat them, but the practice, they're the religious practice. Right? They need animals to sacrifice. That's the truth. The voodoo, right? I mean, the problem with this kind of conversation is that elitists like her, they just get some basic information for somebody right there in Ohio. It's like saying what happened in Aurora was not a thing because they contacted probably the city council. The city council told them, no, that's just a bunch of white people being, racist. But they never went down there to investigate whether or not it was true. You see what I'm saying? This is the problem with this type of conversation. Let me know what you guys see in the comment section below. I'm going to leave the rest of the interview down below, and that way you guys can watch it. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one.